Hello friends, welcome back in the channel of Clinical Care Insight. We started a series of lecture on the digestive system. Until now we discussed about the general overview of digestive system, what is the mean by the digestion. We also seen the some of the the anatomical parts, okay, and how we can classify the digestive system so that we can study the digestive system in a very easy way. Now in today's lecture we are going to mainly discuss about the GIT wall, or you can say the histology of GIT. Fine. And after the break we will discuss about the GIT motility. Okay, now see the lectures outline. First we will deal with the introduction, then we will discuss about the walls of GIT, and then after the break we will discuss about the GIT motility and you can say related pathology, related disorders. So now wall of the GIT consists of, you can say, the four different types of the epithelial, you can say four different type of tissues. Got the point? And the main thing which we have to learn here is these, you can say, the walls, they are not, you can say, uniform throughout the GIT. Okay, they shows considerable, you can say, changes in their integrity, okay, and in their structure. Sometimes you will see that the GIT wall, somewhere they are thicker, they are thinner, okay. So this shows the characteristics variation. Now these walls, they provide so many, you can say, function to the digestive system, but one of the notable function which we are going to discuss is the GIT motility. Motility means movement. Okay, motility means movement. You know, you eat the food, okay, you take the food inside your mouth, and after the, you can say, chewing, you swallow those foods inside the you can say your buccal cavity, and it goes to the food pipe, or also called as the oesophagus, okay, and then it goes to the stomach, then the intestine, small intestine, and then it follows the large intestine. Now this, you can say that this swallowing is a voluntary process, but after that there is a, you can say, involuntary movement. Fine, there is involuntary movement of the wall of GIT. Okay, specifically the muscular wall which we are going to see, and these movements, they show the different movements in different parts of the GIT. Some of the movements like the peristalsis movement, a wave like movement, probably you heard about the peristalsis movement, okay, and there are other called as the segmental movement, okay. And sometimes what happened, persons unable swallow the food, there is a difficulty in the swallowing of the food called as the eclaxia, a kind of disorder. Then there is something called as the irritable bowel syndrome. Then there are other diseases called as the gastroparesis. So these diseases, constipation also, these diseases are mainly associated with problem in the GIT motility, problem in the movement, okay. So we will going to discuss about these diseases also. So make the heading wall of GIT. Wall of GIT. So wall of GIT is basically the histology of GIT. Histology means study of the tissue. Histology of GIT. Now we seen that gastrointestinal tract consists of, starting from the mouth to the anus, starting from the mouth to the anteriorly, started from the mouth and posteriorly end with the anus. Fine. And whatever, you can say, type of the tissues are present, which is called as a wall of GIT, okay, which is called as the wall of GIT. Now there are four walls of GIT, starting from inner to the outer. First layer is called as the mucus layer, okay, mucus layer. Another layer is called as the submucous layer, okay, another layer is called as the submucosal layer, okay. The third layer is called as the muscular layer. muscular layer. Fine. And the fourth layer is called as the serous layer, which is the outermost layer. Serous layer. Okay, we are discussing the wall of GIT from where to where? Inner to the outer. Okay, inner to the outer. So the innermost layer is the mucus layer, also called as the GIT mucosa, also called as the GIT mucosa. Then the second layer which is present after the mucus layer is the submucosal layer. Got the point? Now, the third layer is the muscular layer. It consists of the smooth muscle as well as the skeletal muscle, which we are going to discuss, and the uppermost layer is the serous layer. Fine. So remember, the wall of GIT is made up of by the four different types of the layer. It is made up by the four different types of layers. And also keep in mind that these layers are not uniform throughout the GIT. Okay, they shows the considerable, you can say, variation in their integrity, in their cellular integrity. There is a cellular modification somewhere. You find out this mucus layer, they are a granular. Okay, sometimes they are stratified, sometimes they are a columnar. Okay, you probably heard about the epithelial lining. So basically the mucus layer are the epithelial lining. Fine. So first we just draw the cut section of GIT. I'm just cutting the intestinal part. Okay, intestinal cut sections, and see how these layers are arranged. How these layers are arranged. So this is the stomach, these are the small intestine, and here is your large intestine. Okay, and there is anus. Okay, rectum and anus. Now I am cutting this portion, this much portion, and showing you in an enlarged fashion here. Now, this is the outermost layer. This is the outermost layer called as the serosa. Okay, this outermost layer, the outermost layer of the GIT is called as the, very good, it's called as the serosa. Now, this layer is called as the serosa. Fine. After this layer, there is a presence of another layer called as the two muscular layer. Okay, there is a presence of another two muscular layer. And they are called as circular and longitudinal layers. Okay, these are the circular layer, and inner to it there is a presence of longitudinal layer. Okay, there is a presence of longitudinal layer, and these layers they are called as the this is your circular layer. Fine. So this white color as I'm showing, it is your longitudinal layer, longitudinal muscular layer. Okay, and this green one, this is the circular layer, circular muscle layer. Fine. Now, inner to it there is a presence of submucosa. Okay, there is a presence of submucosa. I am showing you by this purple color. This is the submucosa. Okay, submucosa. Now, the inner layer, okay, inner layer is called as the mucosa. This layer, as you are seeing, this is the innermost, and it is which is facing towards the content of GIT. Okay, and this layer is called as the mucosal layer of GIT. Mucosal layer. So let's recap what we studied. We are cutting, you can see there is a cut section, and here is the enlarged view of the GIT, the intestinal part. This view is for the intestinal part. Now, the outermost layer is a serosa. Okay, outermost layer is the serosa. Now, inner to it there is a presence of two different type of the, you can say, the muscular layer. Two different type of the muscular layer. The one is called as the longitudinal, this one, as you are seeing, this is the longitudinal muscular layer, and the another one is, another layer which you are seeing is called as the circular layer. Okay, called as the circular layer. Now, inner to it there is a presence of submucosal layer. Okay, inner to this layer there is a presence of submucosal layer. Okay, and innermost layer which is facing the content of GIT, whatever foods is present in the GIT, and they are, you can say, this layer is facing, and this layer is called as the mucosal layer. Okay, or also called as the mucus layer, which is the innermost layer. Now, remember that in the, you can say, in the submucosa, okay, in the submucosa, and from the lining of these longitudinal layer and circular layer, there is a presence of a special kind of, you can say, neurons, okay, which contribute in the GIT motility. And probably you heard the name, this, here there is a presence of longitudinal, on the longitudinal muscle layer there is a presence of some of the neurons, and they are called as the airbag plexus. Okay, they are called as the airbag plexus, also known as the mycentric plexus. Okay, also called as the mycentric plexus. Now, these are the neurons of enteric nervous system. As I said in the previous lecture, that in the case of GIT, there is involvement of two types of, you can say, the nervous system. The one type which is known, that is called as the autonomic nerve supply, okay, where the sympathetic and parasympathetic neurons participate in, you can say, regulating the secretion as well as the motility of GIT. And apart from that, you can say, the autonomic nervous system, there is another nervous system which is called as the second brain of GIT, that is called as the enteric nervous system. So these airbag plexus, also called as the mycentric plexus, they are the part of the enteric nervous system. Okay, and here on the circular layer there is a presence of another special kind of neurons. Okay, another special kind of neurons, and these neurons, they are known as the Meissner's plexus. Okay, these neurons, they are called as the Meissner plexus. Their role we will discuss when we described about the, you can say, the neural control of GIT. On that lecture, we will discuss about this error plexus or the Meissner plexus in detail. But for a while, you just understand that in the muscular layer, in the two different muscular layer, that's called the longitudinal muscle layer and circular muscle layer, there is a presence of a special type of neurons. Okay, and these neurons are meant for control the secretion as well as the motility of GIT. Clear? No problem? Now we are taking one layer and describe in detail. So first we will deal with the inner layer, and that layer is called as the, very good, mucosal layer, or also called as the mucosa of GIT. So first layer is a mucosal layer. Now this mucosal layer, they are also called as the inner, they are also called as the mucosa of GIT. Mucosa of GIT. Fine. The second thing is it faces the GIT content. It is the layer which is facing the GIT content. Okay. Now this mucosal layer is basically the three types. Okay, these mucosal layer are basically the three types, and it has the three layers. The first layer is a epithelial lining. Write it down. The first layer is a epithelial lining. Okay, and these epithelial lining, they shows the you can say the considerable variation. Okay, if we taking the example, then in the inner surface of the mouth, surface of the tongue, or inner surface of the pharynxes, there is the presence of the stratified epithelial tissue. Means that this, you can say, in the mucosal layer, the first, it consists of the three, you can say, the sub layer. Three sub layers. Now the first layer is the epithelial lining, and these epithelial lining, they are not uniformed throughout the, you can say, the GIT. This shows the variation. As I said, in the inner part of the mouth and the interior surface of the tongue, as well as the inner portion of the pharynx, there is a presence of stratified, okay, epithelial tissue. Now in the rest part, example, stomach, small intestine and large intestine, there is a presence of columnar epithelium. Got the points? And these modification in the epithelial lining help the GIT to function smoothly. Okay, to function smoothly. And inner to the epithelial lining, there is another mucosal layer called as the lamina propria. Lamina propria. Okay, this lamina propria is basically the connective tissue layer. It is a connective tissue layer, and it contains the fibroblasts, lymphocytes, okay, eosinophils. Okay, so you should write it down. It contains the fibroblasts, okay, the lymphoid tissue called as the lymphocytes, as well as it contains the eosinophils. It is a lamina propria. Now the third layer is the muscular mucosa. Muscularis, okay, mucosa. Now this layer is consist of the smooth muscle fiber, okay, and it is absent in the mouth, but after the, you can see, the oesophagus onwards, the oesophagus, it starts. Okay, so this muscularis mucosa, they are absent in the mouth region. Okay, but from the pharynx it's started, so onwards from the pharynx. Got the point? Once again, we are discussing the innermost layer of the GIT. The innermost of the layer of GIT is also called as the mucosal layer, okay? And it is also called as the mucosa of the GIT. So this mucosa of the GIT, it is the first layer of GIT which faces the content which is present in the, you can say, the GIT tract. Now, GI tract, and it consists of the three sublayers. The innermost layer is the epithelial lining, which shows the considerable variation. Then the inner to the epithelial, you can say the outer to the epithelial lining, there is a presence of lamina propria, which specifically consists of the fibroblast, lymphocyte, and eosinophil. Okay, and now you can say the outer to this lamina propria there is a muscularis mucosa, which mainly you can say it is absent in the mouth, but it is well present after, you can say, the pharynx, starting from the pharynx and throughout the GIT. No problem. So it is about the mucosal lining. Now, and sometimes what happens, there will be a inflammation. Okay, there is an inflammation in this mucosal layer, and that lead to the, you can say, the disturbance in the functioning of GIT. Okay, now let's discuss after the mucosal layer. There is a, you can say, the submucosal layer. So discuss about the submucosal layer. The submucosal layer basically consists of, it is present in the all part of the GIT first of all. Okay, it is present in the all part of the GIT except, you have to remember, because in the MCQ they may ask. So in the mouth and the pharynx they are absent, but they are present throughout the, you can say, the rest of the GIT. So we are discussing now the second layer called as the submucosal layer. Submucosal layer. Now this submucosal layer, as I said, it is present in all part of the GIT. It is present in all part of GIT. All part of GIT, but remember it is, you can say, the absent, or you can say the except the mouth and pharynx. Now this submucosal layer, it consists of, you can say, the different types of nerves. As I said, you know that there is a special type of plexus are present called as the Ehrbach plexus. This Ehrbach's name derive from the, you can say, the physiologist who discovered this, and it is also called as the mycentric plexus. Okay, and another plexus, as we discussed here, okay, is called as the Meissner's plexus. Okay, no problem. So it's basically the submucosal layer, it consists of the blood vessels. Okay, here all the lymphatics, blood vessels, as well as the nerves are present, the submucosal layer. Got the point? No problem. Now let's discuss the another layer, the third layer of the GIT, called as the muscular layer. Muscular layer. Now, muscular layers, they are, you can say, there is a presence of a skeletal fibers muscle. Okay, skeletal fibers muscle, as well as the smooth muscle fiber. So basically in the muscular layer there is a presence of a skeletal muscle fiber and the smooth muscle fiber. Okay, and it shows the variation. It also shows the variation. So the third layer is the muscular layer. muscular layer, and this muscular layer, it mainly consists of the two types of muscle fiber. Okay, smooth muscle fiber, smooth muscle fiber, and the another one is called as the skeletal fiber, skeletal muscle fiber. The fundamental difference between the smooth muscle fiber and the skeletal muscle fiber is that the skeletal muscle fiber is a voluntary muscle fiber, okay, whereas the smooth muscle fiber, they are you can say the involuntary muscle fiber. Fine, they are the involuntary muscle fiber, and it shows the variation. If we take the example, the wall of the stomach and intestine, okay, the wall of the stomach and intestine, this muscular layer consists of only the smooth muscle. There is no presence of a skeletal muscle. Okay, so in the wall of the stomach and the intestine, there is only the smooth muscle fiber are present. As I said, initially that these layers, they are not consistent. They are not, you can say, uniform throughout the GIT. They shows the variation according to their function. They are showing the modification. Fine. So, and that one way to see here that in the you can say wall of stomach and intestine, there is only presence of the smooth muscle, because there the skeletal muscle are, you can say, no longer for use. They are no longer for the use. Whereas in the esophagus, there is a presence of both the skeletal muscle fiber as well as the smooth muscle fiber. Fine. No problem. Now let's move ahead and discuss the fourth layer, which is the inner outermost layer called as the serosa layer. Here only we discuss the serosa. Now this serosa is the outermost layer. Outermost layer, and it faces, okay, it faces your peritoneal cavity. Fine, it faces the peritoneal cavity, and it is formed by the single layer of epithelial cell called as the mesothelial cell. Okay, so it is formed by the single mesothelial tissue. Fine, single mesothelial layer. So it is all about the wall of GIT. Now, so let's summarize what we studied. Basically, we discussed about the wall of GIT, and we said that the wall of GIT consists of the 4 layers, and these 4 layers, they are not uniform throughout the GIT. They shows the considerable variation, okay, in their, you can say, the histology, in their structure. Now, the first layer we seen, the inner layer, is called as the mucosal layer, and that mucosal layer consists of again the 3 sub-layers. Okay, again the 3 sub-layers, and this mucosal layer, the one who faces the GIT content. Fine. Then above to the, you can say, the mucosal layer, there is a submucosal layer. Okay, and above to the submucosal layer, there is a muscular layer, and okay, and after the submucosal layer, there is the outermost serous layer called as the serosa. Now, after the break, we will discuss about the GIT motility, then how these, you can say, these layers of the GIT contributed in the motility of the GIT as well as the GIT secretion. Fine, and their associated disorder like eclampsia, gastroparesis, okay, IBS called as the irritable bowel syndrome, the constipations, which we are going to see after the break. So thank you with having me. Bye. Have a nice day.